Hey, Guy Powell here, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. If you haven't already done so, please visit ProRelevant.com and sign up for all of these episodes and podcasts. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. I've had Teresa on, and now I have one of her co-authors of her really cool new book. I am so much looking forward to it. There will be nuggets in that book that will help everyone as they're trying to build teams and be successful with their whole business. So the name of the new book is The Purpose Playbook: The Definitive Guide to Building Your Team's Purpose, Vision, Tenets, and Values. So with that, let me just introduce Teresa and Megan. So Teresa Caro is the founder and CEO of Liminist, where she leverages her unique leadership approach to drive growth and enhance performance in C-suite executives, senior leaders, and high-potential teams. Megan Barney is a technology executive with extensive experience bridging IT delivery and product management in global enterprises. She excels in optimizing software development frameworks, fostering stakeholder collaboration, and cultivating high-performing teams. Megan drives strategic growth by aligning technical solutions with business objectives to create innovative products while also leading initiatives that promote a positive and inclusive community. Welcome, Teresa. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Guy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really excited about this book. So what was the genesis of you writing this book?
So the way I got introduced to it was back in 2019, there was a massive company reorg, and I found myself as a leader of a team that was really grappling with uncertainty. And it was almost like serendipitous that I was, looking up leadership books and, ways to help kind of take my team from being fearful to more hopeful of the future of the platform that we were working on. And Jeff's book popped up, Jeff Hilimire, the great, the 5-day turnaround. Sorry, there's 4 books. So the 5-day turnaround. And I read through it and I was like, I really was able to empathize with some of the characters in the story and what they were dealing with. And so I started kind of putting something together, like a workshop on my own, using the book, and reached out to Jeff and asked him questions, and he was like very helpful. And then fast forward a couple of years later, he reached back out to me asking me to interview for his 3rd book, The Great Team Turnaround. And throughout this time, the team was doing a great job. They really were able to we were able to figure out our path forward and why we were here or why we were at the company. And that group of people actually still work together today as a unit on the platform. And I really believe that that's a lot because they were able to come together and build a goal and a plan forward as a unit. And so in the 3rd book, he talks all about teams. So I was able to, leverage that again to do workshops, but always asking, but how do you do this, Jeff? How? What are the steps that I should follow? How should I know that I'm doing it right? What does good look like? And so that's when he was like, let's write a book about that. Let's write a workbook about it. And we started doing some consulting together. And then, we had a great idea, but we really started working really well when Teresa joined the team, and came in, and I'll let her explain how she, got involved with us. But, I was just really passionate about trying to build culture on teams, and move teams forward. And the last thing I'll say before I hand it to Teresa is, in technology, a lot of times teams, they take a ticket, they work the ticket, they move on to the next ticket, where they don't understand the whole big picture of why they are even doing any of those tickets. What is the purpose of it? Who's going to use it? How's it going to be used? And so developing the PVTV allowed, everyone from the intern to, the leadership to understand why we were here and what we were planning on executing and being successful with.
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah, sorry. I really like that
And
question about what does good look like, because
yes,
that is critical for all kinds of projects.
yes. And Megan mentioned PVTV. So a core to this playbook is this concept of purpose, vision, tenets, which is another way of saying strategy or strategic statements, and values, which are really those core value kind of statements. So in I enter, and I too am a big follower of Jeff's books, and I too have read his books. And I created Liminist, which is, like you said, Guy, an executive coaching and team coaching organization. And I wanted to apply what Jeff talks about in his books, but I too said the same thing. How do you do that? What steps do you take? What does good look like? And I gave Jeff a call to ask him all those questions. It's like, funny you should ask. Megan and I are writing a book together, and would you like to join us? And I said, sign me up. And so Jeff put us together, and Megan and I have been partnering on bringing to life the playbook ever since.
And
Well,
it's
that's
been great. Yeah. I don't think it would have been done without Teresa joining. She's really been able to kind of pull us all together. And so it's been a really fun for me to work with her.
yeah, absolutely. Well, it is funny how, working alone, you can get a lot done, but when you have a team that really knows what's going on, you can leverage so much, and the value is definitely more than 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. It's much, much more than that. So,
Absolutely.
fantastic for you guys. And so what do you see as the primary targets that can benefit from your book?
We're both laughing. This is a funny you should ask kind of moment. Megan.
There's literally a section of the book that says, who is this for? Because we ruminated so much on who is this for? And Teresa and I went back and forth, is it a company? Is it a team? Is it a leader? Is it who is it? And really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your title is. It's really about who you are. And, if you want to change your culture, if you want to make sure that you can see a way forward, then you can use this playbook. It provides the details to defining your strategy. And you don't have to be a leader to lead that direction. You probably need buy-in, but you can be that person that, promotes it, moves it forward in your company or on your team, and is that ambassador to making sure that people really understand what the reason is why you exist, right? And so with the playbook, even though it's really for anybody who wants to do that, we go into the details, the how, right? And so the story at the beginning kind of gives you the thought process of the facilitator who's, running the workshop, and then the group of the attendees and the questions that they ask the facilitator. So it's really like more into detail, even in the story. And then you get into the playbook part, and we talk about the importance of leadership alignment, ensuring vulnerability-based trust, which is something Teresa and I found in one of our workshops together, how important that is. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. And then, being able to kind of like set the stage of how to define your purpose, vision, tenets, and values. And so, we have a section for the facilitator to guide them through how to run a workshop, and then attendees on how to, what steps to take to define each area throughout the workshop. So it's really, again, for everybody who wants to make a difference in the culture of their team or company.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I think that's for anybody in an organization, I think the real key thing is are they able to make a difference? And that makes such a difference for the whole team and the success of the team.
Yep.
Yeah. Megan mentioned a part of the book that talks about how do you know you're ready? And there's a few check boxes that are related to that. Are you able to make an impact as a leader of this team?
Yeah, fantastic. I like this PVTV. When I first heard it, I go, "Oh, it's Tubi TV. I can subscribe." But so it's purpose, vision, tenets, values. So
Correct.
fantastic. So I'm sure you've got a handful of really good case studies on how it's been applied and the success that you have. Maybe let's tell us a little bit about a couple of those.
Yeah, I'd love to tell you one of the case studies from one of my clients, actually. And backing up a second, what's interesting about this book is people pick it up because they know that they need to create a unified force, some kind of unified message. They know they need, it's trendy to talk about the purpose statement. In fact, if you look on Amazon, there's plenty of books out there that talk about purpose and purpose playbook. So that's the number one reason why people come to either read the book or work with Megan or myself to develop that purpose and that vision. What they come to realize though is in the process of creating that unified force, that unified message, it, they sort of struggle in certain areas. Megan mentioned the vulnerability-based trust. There's that. Also, teams don't know how to have a conflict conversation, or they do have a conflict conversation, but then they don't know how to commit to a decision. They think that it's consensus, and there's no such thing as consensus. You have to make sure everybody feels heard, that there's clarity, that there's buy-in, so you can commit as a team, and then you can go on to hold each other accountable, and that in turn generates results. If you don't have that, if you don't have that common language, then it's really hard to actually implement the purpose playbook, which brings me to the case study that I would like to talk about. I'm working with a particular organization, and they really needed that unified message. They had it with one particular set of their team, but they wanted to be able to bring in more members and create a bigger leadership team to drive this organization into the future. Well, we all agreed before we did that, they wanted me to take them through what's called the 5 behaviors. You may have heard Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team. Patrick Lencioni and his publisher, Wiley, actually came together and created a coaching program called 5 behaviors. And they switched it to behaviors because no one wants to be called dysfunctional. This company I worked with certainly wasn't dysfunctional. They needed to be taught certain tools so they could successfully move through the purpose playbook. So we went through those 5 behaviors: vulnerability-based trust, having to have conflict conversation, committing to whatever they decide, holding each other accountable, and results. Okay, now they had a common language. Now it was time to implement the purpose playbook. Well, what was fun is this team already had vulnerability-based trust. They had been working together for years. They knew that they had each other's backs. They really trusted one another. They just didn't have the tools to really brainstorm and make sure all voices were heard, loud and quiet. And so with these tools, we were able to make sure a big room of people was able to be heard. And then they were able to come to a purpose statement and core values actually pretty quickly, the fastest I know Megan and I have ever seen a team come together with that. So that was no problem. What's fun, and you'll hear me say purpose and values, we actually realize, even though it's a PVTV is fun to say, we actually swap it around. So we have people do purpose and values first because it's more of that, what's the why behind this company and what makes it so special through a core value. So it's the emotional piece. Then we implement the values and the tenets, which is more of those brass tacks. What are we going to accomplish in 3 to 5 years? And how are we going to do that? And so at the time of this recording, that's what the team is working on right now. It's a shift. And that's the other important piece of this case study is there's a mental shift from just working together and doing great work, but doing it sort of reactively versus being proactive and really being deliberate about what is your company going to look like in 3 to 5 years? And what are the very specific proactive steps that you're going to take to get there? And that's what they're working on right now. And that's the hard part for a lot of companies, especially if you don't have that core foundation.
Yeah, I can imagine that is pretty hard because until you get that foundation and and some kind of an agreement on the, what are we going to look like in 3 years? It's funny, I'm with a nonprofit right now, and that's exactly the question I ask is what does the company, or what do we look like, 3 years from now? And that's something that it's hard. It's very hard to do. So kudos to you that you were able to do that.
Thank you. And it's funny you bring up a nonprofit, because that's the case study that Megan would like to share a bit about with you.
Yeah, so Teresa and I ran a workshop with a local church in the area where they really wanted to develop, what their purpose was, to make sure that their congregation understood who they were and why choose them to come and as their church. And so we kicked off with values, and that was really inspiring. And the group was able to come around what their core values were. That was kicking off that way really, brings kind of camaraderie in the group together. We watched them share really like personal stories with each other about who their role models were and why, what values they had and why they were important to them. Even I think there was even tears. It was really a really great experience. And then we took a little break and we got to purpose. And all of a sudden, as we're going through and kind of talking through purpose, there was eye rolling and kind of sighing and, obvious people not agreeing with each other. And we had to kind of take a break and stop and have the, it's not pastor. Sorry, what was
the person facilitating?
Yeah.
We'll focus on the purpose person facilitating it, or our sponsor.
Yeah, she we stopped what we were doing, and she kind of got brought the group around and had a really like detailed, frank conversation of what was bothering everyone, and trying to get everyone to not necessarily agree with each other, but to commit to move forward, which was really inspiring to us, and really made us refocus on, the 5 behaviors and making sure that checklist of things that you need to do to understand if you're ready to build your PVTV. That gave us like a really good case study of why that was so important. And then we actually went back to them another day and went through their vision and their tenets, and you could see the difference in the group of how well they were working together, and how they were much more comfortable having that conflict and talking through things. And we were able to get through the rest of it. They have got a great PVTV now. I think our final piece with them is to kind of like build that out a little bit more and make it not just the statements, but build out the explanation of what the statements mean to them, so that everyone who reads it will understand what it means, whether they're in that team or not. And so,
Yeah.
it was a great time, and we learned a lot working with them.
Well, and I'm sure that's exactly the case, because a nonprofit very different, or a church very different from a for-profit where there's a clear hierarchy. When you really don't have a hierarchy, and everybody's there kind of as volunteers, so to speak, it can be very difficult to get consensus. So do you see that as well, as kind of differences between a for-profit and a not-for-profit?
I haven't, because I think humans we all work the same way, and so I don't think it matters what kind of team you're on. There might be more, hesitancy or, concern over communication or expressing yourself than other places. But like at the end of the day, wherever you are, we're all humans, and we all go through the same array of emotions. And
Yeah. And it's important to reinforce there's no such thing as consensus. If you're looking for consensus, you're going to be stuck.
Yeah.
Right. It's making sure everyone feels heard. it's ensuring that there's clarity in what we're talking about, that everybody, again, we keep saying common language. And then there's buy-in. And there, a lot of times what we will see is that if people feel heard and there's clarity around what's about to be agreed upon, even though it might not be that person's idea, they still ultimately buy in. And then they know that once they leave the room, that they are committed to that decision. And then they can hold each other accountable to that decision and then finally move forward as a team. That's why we're doing this. That's the most important thing.
Have you found different types of people to have trouble buying in? Quite often you get this not invented here kind of mentality, or, it's not my idea, so I'm not going to support it. Is that part of your conflict resolution, or how does that all work?
So yes, and that's part of, so one of the things that Megan and I and Jeff want to reiterate to everyone is we can give you the playbook and you can run the playbook, yet sometimes teams get stuck and that they need someone to help them through it. So if there is an aspect of someone being stuck, then having one of us or a couple of us come in and help through that stuckness, through using some of the tools and techniques that we've been credentialed and certified to do, that's when you reach out to us. Because a lot of times with many different playbooks or workbooks, you could do it yourself, but we keep coming back to this concept of humans, and there might be a human or two on your team that just have dug in their heels and they cannot see a way forward. And that's why we're here to help.
Yes, I agree. Like sometimes there's folks on your team that their ego is bigger than you can manage, and bringing in a new face or somebody who has, like Teresa said, is certified to do this type of facilitation, they become a different person, or they change, they act more appropriate than they would if you're running it on your own and they don't necessarily have your respect.
Well, and sometimes, Guy, sometimes as you're going through the process, not exactly the PVTV, but just the process of 5 behaviors or any other kind of facilitation, you may come to realize that that's not the right person. And that's a tough decision that a lot of companies need to make. Yes, from a nonprofit, you're sort of with that person. I know there's a different dimension, and so we have a way to help with that. But sometimes tough decisions just need to be made, and having a third party come in and help enlighten the steps that need to be taken in order to make that decision is a nice to have.
Yeah, definitely, and I think you're right. The bringing in the third party or the outside credentialed or expert, that can really help the whole team, and also potentially, those difficult decisions or difficult pathways, that need to be made, and I can see that being very important for, defining the success as you're moving forward. Yeah, fantastic. So then, so now you have the book out, but now tell us a little bit about what do you see as kind of next steps? How is that how can you, really bring this to a lot more organizations?
You want to go, Megan, or do you want me to go?
I'd like you to kick it off, because I think you've got the good points to call out.
Okay, and then we'll have Megan compliment. You can see, Guy, we're already a great team. We know each other's strengths and we play well together. It's really just been fun getting to know Megan this past, wow, it's been over a year now.
Yeah.
I would say from a next steps perspective, of course, by the time that your audience is listening to the podcast, our book has been released. So be sure to go to Amazon, search on the Purpose Playbook and one of the authors' names. So yeah, there you go. Megan's showing the book. So search Purpose Playbook and Megan Barney or Teresa Caro or Jeff Hilimire, and it'll pop right up. So we would love for you to order the book. Absolutely leave a review. If you actually pick up the book and you start leafing through it and you need some help, there's a few steps you can take there. You can reach out to Megan or Jeff or myself through LinkedIn, but all three of us are prolific, so you should be able to find us no problem. You can also go to the website alwaysleadwithpurpose.com. You'll find support materials there and also a way to contact us. And then also you can visit my website, theluminous.com. I'll have Purpose Playbook information there as well. So there's lots of different ways you can reach out to us and see what else we can do to help you move this forward. What did I miss, Megan?
Well, we're, for, I guess, the future, beyond this book, we're already talking together about what's next. What is our next book going to look like? We talk a lot about developing your PVTV, or your purpose, vision, tenets, and values in this book, and adding it to your day-to-day to make sure it stays top of mind in your team, and that your team makes decisions, with their PVTV in mind. But there's a lot more ways that we can help folks learn how to operationalize their vision and their tenets. And so we want to continue to be able to add, more ways and strategies to doing that. And so I expect we'll have a whole book on that soon.
Yeah, that's coming out in 2025. And as Megan pointed out, you can create it, but a lot of these things get created and then put into a drawer. And what Megan and I want to make sure, and we've already started crafting the steps and we're starting to test it out in different organizations, is make sure that all aspects of the PVTV permeate all aspects of the organization. So it becomes a living, breathing, unifying force.
Yeah, and having that, once what I've found, and I've written 5 or 6 books, and now that you've got this one out, it seems like you just you get done with the one and you go, man, I need to write another one because there's all this really cool stuff. And I can see too, as you get more and more projects behind you and people really start to embrace what you've got, I'm sure you're going to have content that you'll be hard to filter down into another book. So fantastic.
That may have already happened to us. This book was actually supposed to be about double the size. So we cut it down in half, and then the operationalizing piece is something that Megan and I will be working hard on in the coming months.
Yeah,
Shout out to
fantastic.
Ripples Media for our publishing company, Ripples Media, for talking to us gently into dividing this book up into 2 parts.
Gently is the key word.
Yeah, gently.
We finally had to get them to spit it out that maybe Megan and I need to take that part out at this point.
Yeah. And you spend so much time writing it, and you're emotionally in there. I know my last book, I had the same problem. I was like 200,000 words, and I had to get it down to around 100. And it's hard. It is hard. Yeah. So I look forward to, I definitely look forward to the first book, and then certainly the second one as it comes online and things like that. So, well, I have one really tough question for you though, and then before we finish up, and that is, so if I'm a young, I don't know, employee, professional getting into the business world, what would you recommend for them? What advice would you give them?
I would say, and this is probably used a lot, but like being curious, asking the questions, trying to understand organizations and how they are, created in the company that you're in, nurture healthy partnerships, make sure people know who you are, even when you're young and, starting off. There's so many opportunities, especially in my world, that's been corporate mainly for a long time. It's making sure you get to know a lot of people, volunteer for things, affinity groups or employee resource groups, do your job. Also, don't forget that part.
That's a key one.
Yeah, that's a key one.
Well, sometimes you need to point that one out though. And just, get excited about what you don't know, and so that you can file away more information and knowledge as you go through your career.
And that is such an amazing list. I'm going to reiterate the being curious part. if anybody chooses to follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see I'm a big, passionate person about living a prioritized life, that balance. There's no such thing as balance. You have to ruthlessly prioritize your life. And part of that is young employees, they just assume if someone tells them something to do, they have to do it right then and there. And the next thing you know, their plate it's overflowing and they've completely burnt out. So never assume it needs to be right then and there. Never assume that this is the priority over something else, especially if someone higher up in the organization asks them to do that. Ask a lot of questions, clarifying questions. It's like it all comes back to that. Make sure you have clarity, make sure you have buy-in, make sure everybody's aware of all the things that are on your plate so you can work as efficiently and as effectively and as impactfully as possible.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
just
Yeah,
to plug
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just to plug Teresa's Prioritized Living workshop, I did it myself, and it was a huge help to really kind of like look through all the aspects of my life and see where I'm, where I need to prioritize better or more. And then the positive intelligence like 6-week program was just phenomenal in helping me like just being a better leader and a better human overall, and making sure you really think of other people and yourself when you're in your day-to-day and making decisions. It just improved my emotional and mental health significantly. So.
Oh, thank you, Megan, for that plug. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that was pretty good. So curiosity and prioritization, that definitely makes sense. And I think you're right. For the young employee is to always respond with when do you need this by, and that way
Yes.
that'll help you or help them to prioritize. Is
When
there
do you
anything
need this? When do you need this by? And is this more important than
Yes,
XYZ? Right?
yes, exactly. So is there anything else I left out? Anything else you want to bring up or?
I for the young career for a young career person, one more thing, and I don't know how long I have to explain this, but beware of the carrot and the stick. And I think it goes back to making sure you ask the right questions, because you want to make sure that you're moving through your career, but that you're not being taken advantage of. So I don't know if anyone ever talks about that very much. So.
Yeah,
But
yeah, absolutely. I like that, the carrot and the stick. Those are, and to your point as well is do your job. Well, that's kind of the, that's a big one that fits right in there as well. All right. Well, thank you, Teresa, Megan. Thank you so much. It's been great to understand what you're working on and how it's going to help organizations to move to the next level. That is always critical, whether you're a nonprofit or whether you're a for-profit. That getting people to work together and productively is absolutely critical towards success of the whole group. So fantastic. Kudos to you guys. So where do you want people again to go to learn more about you and the book, and how can they reach out to you?
So a few places. One is alwaysleadwithpurpose.com. Two is you can find us on LinkedIn. We are all very prolific, and so you should be able to find us very easily. If you would like to reach out to me directly and learn more about executive coaching and team coaching, you can find me on The Liminist, so LIMINIST.com. And there are links to the Purpose Playbook should also be on the website as well if you want to learn more about that, either on that website or alwaysleadwithpurpose.com.
And alwaysleadwithpurpose.com will we have plans to have some additional activities and printable pieces, so there'll be some additional things when you buy the book that you might want to come check out, especially if you want to run a workshop on your own. So not just informational of like how to get in touch with us, but also like little tidbits of knowledge of how to use the Purpose Playbook. So that'll be really kind of little gifts we add throughout the year. And then if anyone wants to reach out to me, my LinkedIn like Teresa said, is available and easy to find.
Fantastic. Yeah. So always lead with purpose.com, and definitely reach out. And if you want to learn more, that's the place to go. And both Teresa Caro and Megan Barney are both on LinkedIn, and I'm sure that there's lots of good information there. So again, thank you so much. And for the audience, please stay tuned for many other videos in this series of the backstory on marketing and AI. And if you'd like to, I do have some excerpts from my book on marketingmachine.prorelevant.com, marketingmachine.prorelevant.com, and look forward to hearing your responses and reviews and comments on this video. Teresa again and Megan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Guy. Appreciate you having us.
Absolutely.